When you get up in the morning, are you motivated? Do you want to get up in the morning and go to work, or is it a drag? Some of it does stem from Gen Z because their expectations of what is provided as an employee is very different to what other generations think. I mean, particularly with ChatGPT, please don't use it to write your CV. It's obvious.
Before I get into the detail of today's topic, I would be so incredibly grateful if you could just take a moment to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, because it really does make such a massive difference to helping me build this channel. So I really appreciate it if you do that. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. I am so excited today to have my good friend and colleague, Kerry White. Kerry is a recruitment consultant, but I will let her introduce herself.
So my name's Kerry White. I'm Associate Director at HR Recruitment Consultancy, Macmillan Davies. As a business, we've been going for over 44 years. I think we're the longest established sole HR recruitment business in the UK. If anybody out there knows any different, please do let me know. I work for the North, so we have 3 offices, Manchester, Birmingham and London, and I recruit for the executive search and senior HR for interim and permanent. That's me.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. And what we'll do, Kerry, is I'll leave your details down below so people can get in touch with you if they're, looking for their next HR role. One thing that I do need to point out is that 50% of my viewers are US based.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put that bit of a caveat out there that whilst we will try to make this generic for any type of job hunters, there might be some things that I will try to remember to say that's just pertinent to UK, because I do get viewers from all over the world, but I just wanted to throw that out there. 50% are US based. So today there's so much we could cover on recruitment because, I had a 20-year career in HR before I set up my own coaching practice. So I've got oodles of experience in that field as well. And, we were looking at the types of things that we could talk about in today's session. But I think one of the biggest ones, and I did a video on it recently, is around the issues why people don't necessarily look for new jobs when it actually is really time to leave. So what's your view on that side of things? Why are people not leaving?
I think COVID, I don't want to use COVID as the first thing I come in with, but if we'd had this conversation 3-4 years ago, it would be very different to the conversation we've had now. We obviously had the Great Resignation in 2021, 2022.
Oh, talk to us about that then. What was the Great Resignation?
That was around everybody sort of lockdown happened, as we all know what happened in the last sort of few years. But coming out of the end of it, people really looked back on their life, looked back on their career. Everything changed. I know I had a child in the middle of it and was on maternity leave, so it was all very strange for me. My husband worked all the way through it from home, but it made people think about their life choices, their career choices. 50%, particularly in HR, and I am going to talk from a HR bias in this. That's what I do. That's what I've done for 16 years. I've recruited in HR for 16 years, so that's what I know. People thought, right, there's more to life. I need that work-life balance. I'm not going to get it from work anymore, or I want to make a completely different career choice. We saw, particularly in the senior market, that a lot of people left their high-powered jobs and went to do consultancy work. Absolutely fantastic. That then changed the HR world, particularly for me, again, in the Northwest, and opened up new opportunities for people to progress their career, for people to try new businesses. And that was across the board. We know that it was was huge in the news. That has slowed down in the last year. You speak to recruiters throughout all the industries, throughout all the sectors. 2022, 23 was, 2021, 22 was phenomenal. 2023 has sort of plateaued a bit, but it is going into 2023 increasing again. There's definitely more vacancies coming in, definitely more people looking.
So sorry to cut across you there. So you're saying that job hunting kind of slowed down this year. So there was that boost, and then this year, 2023, things have slowed down, but now it's starting to pick up going into 2024. Is that the kind of stuff that you're seeing?
Yeah, it is. And there's definitely 2023, we've seen there aren't as many active candidates out there. Okay. People are having to be tempted a lot more.
And why do you think that is? Why do you think people have kind of battened down the hatches and are deciding not to move?
I think the economy and what's going on in the world is probably the main factor. Coming into this year, were we going to go into a recession? What was going to happen? Interest rates, that's had a massive knock-on effect. People, as you said, they just want
the fear.
Stability, the fear. And seeing what's been happening within coming out of COVID, hybrid working, changes to organisations. There's lots of restructuring, lots of that going on. It's the unknown. We don't know what's going to happen. Cost of living is a massive, massive thing as well. And I know that's one thing that HR is working a lot on.
I guess one question that I've got on all of this is, have you seen recruitment slow down as have companies stopped recruiting in the way that they were because they're kind of doing the restructuring and looking at their costs and that sort of thing? So have you seen it slow down, not just from a candidate perspective where there aren't as many candidates? Have you seen it from the company perspective as well?
If you do it with a broad brush, 2023 has not been as busy as 2022, but there's been different pockets of different roles. Okay. And different areas that have been busier than other areas. Senior markets, has it been as buoyant? No. Is it picking up? Yes. But the operational, there's a lot, again, HR bias, but there's been a lot of employee relations, the change management that's been happening. You need people to come in to deal with that, to steady the ship. Reward is a massive area at the minute where people are recruiting into. They need to retain people, they need to attract people, and you do that at the minute with benefits, with salary, with the total reward package, the well-being side, that all comes under.
So do you think that employees or prospective employees, what they're expecting from an employer has changed?
Yeah, 100%.
How do you think that's changed?
That's changed by, I think, expectations of what is given to you as an employee. And that's, some of it does stem from Gen Z because they are more, I can see a smirk on your face.
That's an interesting one.
There's a whole podcast in that.
Okay.
Their expectations of what is provided as an employee is very different to what other generations think. Even millennials, Gen X, like I am, etc. You go in to do a job and you do a job, whereas with the Gen Zs, it's a livelihood, it's their social hub, it's their life. Right. So therefore, they expect and want more.
So in terms of if somebody, because I've written a lot, I've recorded a lot and done a lot of videos on, if you're unhappy in your job, life's too short, if you're being bullied, you need to consider your position and maybe look for something else. So there's a lot of people who obviously with the economic certainty or their confidence is really low or whatever it happens to be that's stopping them back. Mm-hmm. Usually it's fear, isn't it? It's fear of failure.
Absolutely.
It's fear of success because a lot of people don't think about the fear of success because, I know that's an issue for me because things are going to change and it's uncertain. And, if things go really brilliantly, then does that mean I can't do all of these things over here? So, there's a lot of fear. But if somebody was thinking about, oh gosh, I'm not happy in my job, I really should be looking.
Yeah. What
would your advice be for them?
So I'm going to put a caveat out there, first of all. I've been at Macmillan Davies for 12 years. So I potentially could be one of those people that you say you've been in the job too long. One thing is you've got to think about why you're in a business and what you've accomplished in the time you're there. You know, with me, with Macmillan Davies, there has been so much that has happened within 12 years of my time there, both from a work perspective. I've been through a management buyout. You know, we've had changes in owners. There's my roles changed. I've taken on more responsibility. We've had team changes. There's been so much that has kept me engaged. It's kept me interested. And I enjoy going to work. So please don't look at me and go, yeah, but what do you know, you've been in a business 12 years. It's very different to when I joined. It's very different to 2 years ago. So, yeah.
And I think a lot of people, you know, there is an issue, and I see that sometimes with recruiters. There's that kind of, oh, that person's been there forever, they're institutionalized. And some people think, oh, I've got to leave because it doesn't look great.
Yeah.
So I guess that's what you're sort of referring to.
Absolutely. And that loyalty. And to me, the word loyal means a Labrador. If you say, oh, you're loyal, Kerry, I'm not a Labrador. I am loyal, yes, but I'm loyal because I love what I do. Like I said before, finding candidates jobs, finding clients, those candidates, that's my passion. So,
but what about those people who it really is time for them to leave?
Yeah.
But they just can't seem to get themselves to do it.
So
because there are a lot of people who stay way too long. And you know, as I say, I've written about that and I've done a video on it. What would you say to those people?
I would say to them, so it's when you get up in the morning, are you motivated? Do you want to get up in the morning and go to work, or is it a drag? What do you believe you can make meaningful change? Again, doesn't matter what level you are working at. Can you go in there and make a difference in your business? Are you listened to? Do you have a voice? Or are you just typing away or doing whatever you're doing and not either getting any acknowledgement for it, or thanks very much, but we're not going to do anything with that information? You know, those kind of things. And, you know, can you progress your career? Can you progress your development? You know, all of those things. Are you happy with your money? Are you happy with your reward? Or are you constantly in the, you know, the back of your head, oh, I could do this, I could do that? If you are thinking that, take the plunge, feel the fear, do it, because it's going to be harder.
I think it's really important. You know, I left a corporate job, as you know. I left a corporate job because I was being bullied and I was dreadfully unhappy. It literally was making me ill. And I just went, you know what, I don't want to live my life like this. But I think a lot of people do just for the money, because there's lots of misconception out there. Because you know, I've helped about 6,500 people find jobs now through my corporate outplacement programs. I do a lot around people who've been made redundant. I've done that for most of the time I've had my own business. And one of the things I hear repeatedly, Kerry, over and over again, because I still do that outplacement, I still do career coaching. I've got a big piece coming up in the next couple of weeks. And I hear, oh, there are no jobs out there. And that's utter nonsense, because 6,500 people I've helped find jobs.
There
are jobs out there. And
we don't advertise all jobs.
Great,
you know, if you're speaking to good recruitment businesses, consultants, do you advertise all your jobs? No, because that is where you get those passive candidates that are thinking, oh, actually, am I unhappy? You know, we want to find those candidates that aren't doing it for, what's the word I'm looking for? Counteroffer. For a counteroffer. We don't want those candidates that are looking for counteroffers or are doing it to get a pay rise. We have confidential roles, you know, particularly at the senior level. Don't advertise a lot of the senior roles. So it's, absolutely. Don't just sit and wait. And there are jobs out there, you just might not know about them.
And I think a lot of people, I know from the training that I do, there's a lot of people just don't realise how many places there are to go and look for jobs.
Absolutely.
There are so many places. When I go through that, either if I'm doing a training session or I'm coaching somebody on a one-to-one basis, and I go through literally all the places to look, you think, oh, there's just online job sites.
No,
there's so much more. And I think about 60% of jobs are got through people we already know, whether that's referrals to a recruitment consultant, whether that's somebody in your network. And that's a really important one.
Absolutely. But one thing is you do have to be serious about it. If you do decide, okay, I'm going to start to look, don't just sit back and think, oh, I'll tick that button on LinkedIn that says I'm open to work. You need to put effort in. You need to, not just from an external marketing yourself out, but don't just expect to phone up an agency or a couple of agencies and then suddenly you'll have 5 jobs.
No.
There you go. No, you have to put effort in. It is about, and we said we'll probably do this in a different podcast, but it's about CV. It's how you sell yourself. It's about what your LinkedIn profile says. It's about networking. It's about getting out there.
Yeah.
It's all of that.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I say to people when they'll say to me, oh, I've looked and there's no jobs out there. I'm like, okay, here's the thing. When you dabble, and that's when, I just had a quick look on this job site. When you dabble, you get dabble results.
Yeah.
You really do. And there's no other way of putting that. If you make a really conscious effort to throw everything at your job hunt, you will get good results. You will. And I've got, interestingly enough, I've got an online course on that. And again, I'll leave the details below. But if you're just going to just have a little go, I had a little look on that job site and there wasn't anything, you're not going to find your dream job by doing that.
One thing that really stops people from looking, I think, is the interview process.
Yes.
And probably, again, CV, writing the CV, of the letter, interview process. The world is changing. AI is obviously coming in, ChatGPT, all of that. So the way we source candidates, the way we look at CVs, the way we and clients recruit is changing. So you do have to be fluid in that side. I mean, particularly with ChatGPT, please don't use it to write your CV. Please don't use it to write your cover letters. It's obvious.
Yeah.
We're all aware. And particularly, I mean, we haven't, but I've heard of instances of candidates writing their presentation with AI.
Really?
Because it pulls and actually they're not up to date. So stats and facts and figures are not real time. You will get found out. So please don't do that. Please don't do it.
Shocking. You can't even believe that people would do that. But I guess it's that kind of easy option. And the thing is, I know we weren't going to talk about CVs today, but it's making your CV stand out by putting lots of achievements in there, not a regurgitation of your job description. Nobody wants. We know. Yeah, because we know, like, if you're a manager managing a team of 6, including disciplinaries, grievances, nobody needs to put all that, because we know what managing a team looks like. What we want is, what do we get if we get you? What are your achievements? What benefit have you given the organisation? I, again, have an online course on how to write a CV based on the 6,500 people that have helped. So I'll leave that below, and I think we'll definitely do a separate one so we don't.
An interview as well, because that's another big one.
Yes, it is.
I do think that people are scared to leave because they don't want to go through the interview process.
I would agree.
And, again, it's be prepared.
And I've got a step-by-step on that, because you can prepare for probably 85% of any interview. You can, Kerry. And in my step-by-step, you can. But a lot of people wing it. They don't do any preparation. They wing it. They don't think about their achievements.
I'm obviously going to sort of promote ourselves with recruitment businesses, but going through us, we are that go-between between the client and the candidate. So we will find out as much information as we can on what the interview will entail. But if you're going directly, don't be afraid to ask. Shows you're proactive. Can I have, if applicable, the strategy, the business strategy, the people strategy? Can I have an organigram?
The competencies.
Exactly. It's ask for it. Make your life simpler, and it shows that you're keen and wanting to know what's happening in the business, or think of it as a two-way street.
Yeah.
Don't think of it as they're interviewing me. You know, you've been in the same business for 5-10 years, you haven't had an interview. How many times a week do you attend meetings, chair meetings, stand up and present? Just think of it like that.
Exactly. Because one of the things that I say is, if you're going to give up where you are right now and everything you've got right now, you better believe that you've got to interview them as much as they interview you.
Absolutely.
Because
Yeah.
this is your life you're giving
Yeah.
up for them.
Yeah.
So
And
it's
I'd
got to be
rather-
right.
Yeah, it has. And I'd rather, and I have done this where I've advised people not to take a job.
Yeah.
Because it's
Me
not
too.
right for them.
Me too.
You know,
Me too.
there is no point, round pegs, square holes, no way.
Yeah.
It's just not right for anyone. And going through the interview process, that's what you learn. Push it back on the interviewer. What are you looking for? Is there anything you feel I haven't got?
Absolutely. But it's, you know, in my experience, especially with the 20 years in HR, one of the things that I do see people do in, you know, candidates, is they will say anything to get a job, even if it's blatantly clear that that job is not right for that person.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know what, take that step back, because you're going to be miserable.
Yeah.
Frying pan, fire. You're going to be miserable. So it's really important that you be really clear about what it is that you want.
Yeah.
You know, and I have a free course on that. I'm flogging my courses here, but hey, you know,
with all this PR stuff.
there is a course that I do for you to get clear, because if you're not really clear on what it is that you want, you will go into an interview and you'll be firing on all cylinders, getting all excited about the job, and actually it might not meet your needs. So it's really important. And there's one thing I want to come back to, Kerry, that you mentioned there, and that was those people that go for new jobs because they don't think they're earning enough, and they're hoping that their current company will do a counter offer. Yeah. I've got some views on that. What are your views on that one? Because it's quite common, isn't it?
It's very common. I mean, for us, and I'll do the plug on us now, we always, when we're speaking to candidates, we have sort of a mantra of back to basics. You know, when the salesy bit of recruitment comes out of us all, you know, all our consultants in our business, that it's pre-close, but question why, what motivates you? What is motivating you to change? What are you interested in this? How did the interview go? Now, as we're going through the process, do you have any concerns? What is it that would stop you from taking this job? But that starts at when we interview candidates, whether it's for a job or not, reasons for leaving, and if and when you hand your notice in, what would your business say? And do you think they'll try and keep you? And that, us talking to them about that, I mean, that's standard recruitment practice. That's something I learned however many years ago I started in recruitment. Why has it taken this long for them to counter offer? And I think the statistics have nigh on always been 8 out of 10 counter offers within 6 months, people are looking for work again.
Yeah, it is. It's something around, I looked at it not so long ago, the stat for it, and I think it was around 90%. 90%, because once that psychological contract has been broken, once you're that upset that your company is not recognizing your input, and you decide to put yourself through that process of leaving, that psychological thing, it then almost becomes not about the money.
And you get flattered, don't you? You get gaslighting, basically, isn't it? Counteroffers is being gaslighted. Sorry. You get, well, they want me to stay, they're offering me this pay rise, they're offering me X, Y, and Z. Oh, but yes, it is easier to stay. Well, actually, no, it's not, because everybody in the business is going to know that you tried to leave. You then, when it comes to potential progression opportunities, there's always going to be, but they were thinking of leaving. It's
not a great way.
It's not a great way. No. If you're doing it for counteroffer reasons, just go and sit with your manager and say, I am not happy. I think the only way for me to move on with my career, with my life, whatever, is to find a position elsewhere rather than I've got a new job, I'm going to leave. It's, it's honesty.
I would absolutely agree with you, because that's just one thing that I see so frequently. And as I say, it's a tough old process to go through, and you've got to be quite committed once you start.
Yeah.
And to just do it just to get some extra pay.
Wrong. No.
Wrong.
One thing I wanted to talk about is not just about what holds people back from staying too long, but also organizations' perception of people's longevity in a business. Because again, that's probably 50-50 on what's happened in the last 3-4 years has changed organizations' perceptions, and they will now look at people who've maybe moved every 2 or 3 years, but there is still a massive, but they've moved around, they'll be no good, they're not
is
gonna
that
stay.
still there? Because
absolutely.
I did a training session a couple of weeks ago. I might have mentioned this to you. I did a training session a couple of weeks ago, and there were some people in their 20s who were hopping around. And when I said, it's fine for a little bit, but it's not a good look long term, they were really shocked. They were really shocked. But if I'm not happy, I can leave. So talk to me a bit more about what your experience of that is.
Yeah, it's some businesses see it as an advantage, and again, I'm obviously going to talk about the senior level in HR. There's more and more startups that are happening. So people are going in and they've got a project to do. They have a 3-year strategy, say, to create, or a 2-year strategy, or a 5-year strategy. Once that's implemented, which theoretically, realistically takes 2 years, their role can become cyclical. And people don't want cyclical. They want to be challenged. They want projects. They want to be able to make it, again, going back to that, make a difference. And if that business is then going to be stagnant for 2-3 years of the strategy, if there's no appetite for any change, they don't want to stay. Feedback has been, but they're not completer finishers.
Yes.
They're not seeing things through. They're not committed. They're a flight risk. Well, they're not. They are the best person to come in because they're going to hit the ground running. That's what they're used to. You need somebody who can change what's happening in the business, and they will give their all. And maybe in 2 years' time, you won't need somebody at that level, or you might need something different. And that then opens up for a new person to come in.
And I think that's the norming, storming, performing bit, because you need different people for different phases, don't you? But I think the concern that I have with people coming in and leaving and coming in and leaving and not sticking at things, it's one thing that some recruiters have said to me, is that when the going gets tough, this person seems to leave. And if you're getting to that point where your job's getting tough, which every job does, let's face it, you and I both know that. There are resilience skills that you learn by going through that toughness. You can't just up and leave every time it gets tough. So I think it's really important to look at your reasons for leaving. Is it just because it's got a bit tough? And you just don't want it's a bit tough? Or is it genuinely that you're not being challenged anymore? Big difference between those reasons, isn't there?
Yeah, definitely. And that it's something that we always do is when we're interviewing candidates, when we're going through the career history, is reason for leaving. What was it? Would you have stayed? Or, there's a lot more contracts out there as well. People are coming in and doing contracts. And I mean, another reason for people moving is they joined businesses in COVID. People were made redundant in COVID. They were furloughed. They weren't happy. The Great Resignation, as we talked about earlier, happened. So people went into new roles. And in the last year, they're now wanted back in the office 5 days, whereas they were only 1 or 2 days, and they live an hour and a half away from the office. And, there's a lot of change that has happened. The culture's changed. And people will move on. They don't want to stay in that environment, so they will move on. And as you said, you need to find out why. That massive question mark, why? Why have they moved on? And CV doesn't always show that, which is why, again, it's important to partner with recruitment businesses, because you will know that those people have been put forward. You might look at the CV and think, but they're wild cards. They're the purple unicorns that you throw an advert out, you're just going to get a load of CVs from. And we understand you as a business. We understand the candidate. And I hate the phrase, trust me, I'm a recruitment consultant, but.
So are there any job roles where turnover is almost expected?
There definitely are. Again, HR, obviously I'm going to be biased on that side, but IT is a massive one. People, they constantly move. It is known as a contractor industry, construction as well. People move between businesses. From a HR perspective, reward, absolutely, people do tend to move. You can see them sort of cyclical every 2 to 3 years. Again, I do think that's going back to my point of they've done a specific project, everything's been implemented. What do they do now? Change management as well.
Yeah.
We do people coming in change management. That's where you see more consultancy people who will come in, parachute in, do it, and then move on. Interesting though, we have seen more consultants wanting to come back into permanent work.
Yeah.
And that's for a variety of reasons, both economical, both personal as well to a lot of people. And we're really having to push back on clients to say, look, they might not have the tenure, but the experience, the exposure, they haven't pushed back. Main one is they haven't seen the return on investment. They don't know what happened because they weren't in the business anymore. But actually, if you delve into their experience and you delve into their career, particularly the very good ones, go back to clients. So they have clients they've worked with for 2 to 10 years. So they can tell you what happened, and it's giving them the opportunity to be able to talk through that. So it's, there's definitely little areas.
Yeah, I get that. And again, that whole contractor versus perm role and interim versus, but that's a whole other discussion, because there are so many benefits for the contracting. But then in my experience of all the coaching and the career stuff I've done with people over the years, so many people only ever last 2 or 3 years doing that. And then they want to go back into that permanent role for so many different reasons. So, it might look like the Holy Grail, might look like you're earning loads more money, but there are lots of downsides, not least, and I kind of get this, having to generate my own income all of the time, is that at the end of a contract, you've got to look for your next, and you've always got that instability can really wear away after a while.
One thing to think about from an employer perspective when you're recruiting is when you're looking at CVs, actually look at your attrition rates in your business. Look at how people or how often people move within your business. When you're recruiting for a specific role, when you're looking at a CV, they've moved every 2 years. Well, hang on a minute. When did you last recruit this role? How long did that person stay? Even look at your board, look at your senior leadership team. How often do you change MDs, chief execs, chief finance officers? How often does the receptionist change? It's nice to potentially have tenure for the new person that's coming in, but you need to look at it from all angles. And I think that's really important.
That's a good point. So, conscious of using any more of your time up, especially given the technical issues we had at the start. Thank you for bearing with me on that one. Right. We know, January, there are usually, for me, I think there are 3 good times to look for a job. January, April, new financial year, and September, because we're still very much driven by the school year. So we're coming up to January now. For anybody that's kind of, maybe not that happy, or they know it's time for a change and they're hesitating, what bit of advice would you give to somebody right now that's considering a job change?
So right now, if you're considering it, start being proactive. Don't wait until the new year to update your CV, to do your social media, to do your LinkedIn, to start networking. Start now, be ahead of the curve, because those people that do leave it until the new year, every year we hear, oh, I've just decided to start looking. Well, I'm sorry, position's not available, or those jobs have gone, those contracts have gone, those permanent roles have gone. So start now. When you move roles, your network changes, your boss changes, your learning and development changes, you're exposed to new challenges, new people, new ideas. Have that in your mind when you're having one of those, oh, I just haven't got time to look for a job. Do it. Just think, this is for the future. This is what you want. Change is good as a rest. Have that rest over Christmas if you can. But, sometimes you have to be pushed. And if that push is finding a new job, do it. And make sure you invest in yourself. Make sure that when you go for those interviews, when you're speaking to those recruitment businesses, when you're speaking to those internal recruiters, that you have that confidence. And Jo has some amazing free videos that I've used myself to help with that. Imposter syndrome is a massive, massive one when you're starting to look for work. And again, speak to the right people, speak to the right consultants. We're here to help you. We're here to give you all the tools to help you find that job. And, that includes coaching and supporting as well.
Absolutely. I mean, I had a lady post something on LinkedIn just last night saying, there's this amazing job and I wanted to go for it, but I had fear of failure in the back of my mind. And she said, just something you'd said to me a few weeks ago popped into my mind and I went for it and I've got it.
Absolutely.
And it's like, you know what? You can do it. It's just your amygdala popping up and saying, oh, it's scary. Let's stay here, because our brains like certainty. So I probably will do something on imposter syndrome before then, because a lot of people get it when they go into a new job. I work with a lot of people and I tell them what to expect. Now, in the first week, there's a good chance that you're going to have a big wobble and think you've made the wrong decision.
Oh, absolutely.
Everybody goes through that. And that's your brain kind of tricking you to get you to run away, to get you to resign and to feel safe again. Your brain just can't necessarily think straight when you're under lots of stress, because your prefrontal cortex goes offline. And that's your critical thinking part of the brain. I've discussed it in loads of other videos. But, we start to say ridiculous things to ourselves. I can't do that. I'm not good enough, especially if you've heard those things growing up. They kind of stick with us. So I think, we all have to change. We all have to grow. It's amazing that we're so scared of change when it's the thing that happens all the time. And I just think, do that reframe, or even cascade yourself out to 5 years from now. Is this what you still want to be doing?
Exactly. Yeah. Write your pros and cons list. Write it. You always say write, don't type. Get your pen, pencil. Pros of staying, cons of staying, pros of getting a new job, cons of getting a new job, and look at it. Speak to your family, speak to your friends.
Yeah, but be very careful with that they're going to see your life through their lens. So if they're risk averse, they're going to dissuade you and say, very true. Just stay. So just big caveat there on that one, to speak to people who have a growth mindset and not a closed mindset. Because that I hear so many people go, oh, well, I was going to go for a job, but such and such said I shouldn't do. And it's like, oh, what do you think is right? Listen to your intuition, I guess. Is a biggie on that one.
Definitely.
Kerry, it's been an absolute joy. Is there anything else I should have asked you that I haven't?
There's probably 1,000 things that we could still talk about on this. All I can say is, you just said it then. Trust your instinct, trust your gut. If your gut is going, oh, another 5 years, another year, can't believe I'm going into 2024 in the same business, that is when it's time to move on. And that is, speak to people, as you said, speak to people you trust, Speak to people you don't know and just say, this is where I'm up to. What do you think? Am I being realistic? And
Recruitment consultants will help you. I am a coach. That's what I do for a living. Find yourself a coach to speak to who is not tied into your life in any way.
Completely unbiased. Yeah.
I think that's really important, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Fabulous. Well, Kerry, we have got so much more that we can be talking about. So we've got CV, interview skills, contractors versus permanent.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we'll get a list of questions. If anybody does have any questions for either myself or Kerry, please leave them in the comments section below, because we'll definitely come back. We'll definitely revisit those.
Yeah.
This is not the last video we are going to do together on this topic. So anything you've got for us, leave them in the comments. I am definitely leaving Kerry's details below, and also the details for those courses that I mentioned, because what I don't want, and which is what I see a lot, is people scared of interviews, don't know where to start with their CV, regurgitating the same one they had since they left college. And I've taken all the pain away for that. Yeah. That doesn't need to be an obstacle, because I've got that step-by-step stuff that's proven thousands of times. So I don't want people to use that as an excuse, because it's not. It's all there for you. Anything else that we need to cover?
No, I think that's all good.
Kerry, it's been an absolute joy. We've been talking about doing this for ages, and I'm glad that we finally managed to do it despite all the issues and stuff like that we had at the beginning. So thank you so much.
No, thank you for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. And thank you to everybody who stays until the very end. And thank you for your continued support. It means the absolute world to me. Thanks, Kerry.
Thank you.
Take care.
See you soon.
Then.
Bye.
Bye.